Tim Cook's investment into services may not be paying off as much as they would like. So they might have to break into the piggy bank here, because what Apple services really are doing that well and which ones aren't doing that well, Bloomberg did a report on it, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it as well. Let's begin. Right, so first off, may I just say, I want to bring this up because I normally don't get things right, but I totally called the Apple News Plus flop thing, okay? As soon as I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, all right, you're gonna ask me for $10 a month, $10 whole dollars, the price of Apple Arcade and TV Plus combined, or the price of just a regular Apple Music subscription, just so that when I'm reading the news, some GIFs can load, okay? Some of the pictures can move a little bit. Yeah, I knew from the get-go that was not gonna last. I know there's some people that like subscribing to different news agencies and having those all correlated into one collection. Okay, some of you are into that, but in today's world of Twitter and, you know, Apple News non-plus, Apple News minus, data and information and what's going on in the world is all free. You can find that stuff at no additional charge. And yeah, there might be some ads here and there, but I really don't think $10 a month is worth all of the journalists that they had bundled in that program. Some of you may disagree, but I just did not see how that was going to work out. And apparently other journalism companies thought the same way, because the New York Times is now pulled out of Apple News Plus, which can't be good. In fact, I'm curious if this is going to cause some type of domino effect. If the New York Times is pulling out, who else is going to start pulling out from Apple News Plus? And then is Apple going to have to lower the price of it more? I mean, even after they launched their initial 30-day trial, a few months into the service being available, they started doing 90-day free trials, which typically, if they're giving away the service for that long for free, it's because they're kind of desperate and hoping you're going to sign up for it and then maybe forget about it down the road and then accidentally keep paying for it. Maybe that's what they were hoping for. I mean, Apple Music from the beginning had 90-day free trials, but to be fair, I don't think Apple Music is one of the services that flops, because it's a pretty decent deal if you like to listen to a lot of music. It's simple. It's like, okay, you pay $10 a month and now you get all of the music. All the songs that have ever been recorded that you could ever think of, you can now just play and download whenever you want. There's no ads. It's fairly simple, and I can see why that would end up being popular. I've been subscribed to it ever since the day it was available, and I've very much enjoyed it. So I can see why Apple Music is doing well, but I guess that's not really in the bunch of new services Apple did at their last March event. When I say last March event, I'm referring to 2019, because of course there was no March event this year. Okay, you gotta keep up, pick up the speed. When it comes to Apple Arcade, it's very tough to know exactly what they're planning, but I imagine it's likely not going super well if they're already having to rethink their approach when it comes to games on that platform, because we've already seen that Apple is starting to cancel a few games on this service and introduce new ones, because Apple feels like they're not having engaging enough video games that can encourage people to continue paying for the service. It sounds like they're kind of struggling to get people to keep playing the Apple Arcade games after their free trial expires, which, I guess a lot of people were probably in that department, especially the tech community here. They're like, okay, I'll try Apple Arcade for 30 days. You find a couple games, you're like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then once Apple's like, so $5 a month? Yeah, $5 a month? Can you do this? Everyone's like, I mean, I don't like it that much. I mean, some of these games are fun, but $5 a month? Yeah, I don't think so. Definitely not for me. There were some fun games on there, but I honestly remember playing a lot of them and thinking, man, this would be nice if I could just pull this out of Apple Arcade, because, mini motorways and that kind of thing, they're fun and you can play them a lot, but the idea of spending $50 a year on a mobile game like that, it's almost kind of like, you know what? I'll just take the ads. Just put some ads in that game and I'll play it for free. I get that defeats the whole purpose of Apple Arcade, but they also started letting people have a second month of free trials, which I guess kind of makes sense if you're introducing new games and getting rid of old ones. You're like, hey, the free trial you got earlier this year, that's not going to be the same as the free trial we have now. So can you please try it again? You'll like these games more for sure this time. The other big service Apple launched was TV Plus, and it's kind of hard to tell if the media attention the service is getting is resulting in a ton of revenue generated, because obviously when Apple unveiled the iPhone 11, they said, by the way, if anybody buys a new Mac or a new iPad or a new iPhone or something like that, then you get a full free year of TV Plus. Okay, that means that a lot of people weren't even paying for the service, and yet they're still still using it. So it's honestly, in the first year of TV Plus being around, kind of difficult to tell how well it is doing. $5 a month when it comes to streaming services is actually pretty competitive, but the back catalog for TV Plus is still pretty dry. Though the good news is all of the shows on TV Plus appear to be Apple originals, which means they can't be taken away. So I guess Apple is playing the long-term game here, and a lot of the shows have been award-winning, so they've gotten a lot of Emmys and nominations and that kind of thing. So everybody knows about the shows on Apple TV Plus, but it's hard to know exactly if that's directly correlating with a lot of people subscribing to it. The Bernstein report estimated that TV Plus was doing about half as well as Apple Music when it comes to revenue, which I have a hard time believing because Apple Music on average is, like $10 a month, and TV Plus is $5 a month. So the idea that the number of people subscribing to TV Plus is the same number of people subscribing to Apple Music, and these people aren't using the free trial, they're actually paying the $5 a month for TV Plus, I have a hard time agreeing with. I have a hard time believing this estimation chart, which could probably never be proven wrong or right because Apple just likes to bunch all of their services revenue into one category, so we don't really know which services are flopping and which ones aren't. But I do find it hilarious that the second highest revenue model is from licensing, like their Google search deal and that kind of thing. That's outperforming all of these services Apple loves talking about. Just Google being like, hey, keep our search engine on Safari. Boom! That's all the money generated from services. But Apple will claim it's because of, Arcade and News Plus and that kind of thing. The Apple Card, as much as I like it, and you guys seem to enjoy my review of it, definitely doesn't seem to be a huge moneymaker for Apple. Apparently, from the last update we got, Goldman Sachs ran out around $2 billion worth of credit lines, which in the credit card world is not an insane amount, so I'm not exactly sure what the overhead is for the Apple Card, but we know that the amount of credit lines Goldman Sachs was running are not anything to get excited about. It's not anything major, and we definitely see Apple pushing the Apple Card pretty heavily with adding more things to support 3% cash back. They're pushing financing options with all the Apple hardware, so there may be a huge uptick in Apple Card users since all of these new features have been added. And personally, I think of all the services they launched last year, the Apple Card is the one that should probably do the best because it's free, you get cash back out of it, and there's a lot of handy financing options through Apple's hardware if you do have an Apple Card. So I don't know why that can't do better, but maybe, getting a lot of people to sign up doesn't necessarily mean making a huge amount of revenue off of them. And it's also not a shock given the Apple Card makes it painfully easy to know when you need to make a payment, how to avoid getting interest charges, and if you design a card that makes it really hard to carry a balance on and have interest on, then how is Apple going to make much money off of it in the first place, right? That's kind of how a lot of credit card companies make money off their credit cards, is by, encouraging you to, don't worry about it, just do a minimum payment, don't even really think about it, and then people end up paying interest charges on that. So basically, in my opinion, it sounds like Apple Arcade and Apple News Plus are probably performing the weakest, and given they didn't really talk much about them at the last Apple event, I imagine the services are not doing as well as they would have hoped. Apple TV Plus, Apple just likes to pride themselves on it by just saying like, oh, these shows are filmed so well and they're getting so many awards and we're just a major player in the TV show business because of how important these movies and shows are, when in reality, revenue-wise, a lot of people could not be paying for it in the first place. Apple Card sounds like an exciting little side project for Apple that might not be that profitable in the first place. So yeah, honestly, I know Tim Cook is trying to reorient Apple as more of a services company because they know that survives the long haul more so than hardware, because as iPhones and iPads and Macs have smaller changes year over year, it's going to be harder and harder to rely on just hardware sales. But frankly, it seems like with these new services, that's not exactly going to be changing. It sounds like for the next few years at least, hardware is still definitely going to be their bread and butter. That's what they're going to be relying on, and they're definitely going to have to rethink how they handle a lot of these services. In my opinion, you should just scrap News Plus. I don't think there's a low enough price point that it would be worth it. I wouldn't pay for Apple News Plus if it was $1 a month, and I think that there's a growing number of people that are just like, I'll just get my news on Twitter and Apple News Minus or whatever. I'll just get it for free, because moving pictures and paying for dedicated articles that are special because they cost money, I don't see that being incredibly popular in the future. So I would scrap that one. Maybe make Apple Arcade more enticing by including it for free for a year with new Apple hardware. They could do what they did with TV Plus, and that way you get a bit more addiction to people with games on there, and then they feel like they can keep paying for it. But I'm no expert. What do you guys think Apple should do? Feel free to hit me up over on Twitter, join my Discord. We can chat more about these flopping services over there. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you in the next one.